This looks yummy. This looks really, really yummy. I really want that. Oh my goodness. I have a little bit of an eating problem. Yes, this is Casey, and welcome to Train Simulator. And today we have ourselves a Stamford local, which is the New Haven line. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Metro North. You guys are probably very familiar with Metro North. But yeah, today we are taking the Stamford local to Grand Central Station today, and we have ourselves a set of 8 M8s, and these were built by Kawasaki fairly recently. So let's get going. Alrighty, so we are in a Kawasaki M8, and we are about to take off out of Stamford. Now, all the Metro North equipment in the game that I have has been modded with content by FanRailer. I'm sure you guys know who FanRailer is. He makes mod packs for Train Simulator, and these are one of the mod packs, which was better acceleration sounds and physics upon leaving a station and slowing down at a station. I kind of like it. It gives the train some pep. Makes it feel more realistic. Because these modern day MUs, they take off. Now I gotta be a little bit careful, because one of my biggest things I was doing before was when I was trying to get reused to running these trains, I kept stopping too late, and the train ended up overshooting a few stations. Yay, fun. So you gotta be a little bit careful with these. When I was over at my friend's house earlier, I was playing the Hudson line in his, and those with the M7s. They're a little different. Because these are M8s, and the M7s are these third rail variant. They're third rail, but they're like, they're different in a sense. They're a different rail car. So they have, different controls, different way of handling. I think the only thing these two train cars share is a propulsion system. Boy, do I sound like a nerd right now. Can't really go over 45 here because the cab signals won't let you. Screw the 70-mile-an-hour speed limit that you guys see in that little blob right there. If you take this off for a sec and you look down here, you can see signal speed 45, and that's because all the safety systems are cut in, and you can't really change that. So one thing interesting about these trains is that you have to do a power mode change, and that power mode change happens at Pelham Station. So you change from overhead wire to third rail. God, I sound like a nerd in this goddamn video. This is a New York route though, so this is why I know this so well. Love my New York trains. Though I gotta say, with the Fan Railer Comprehensive Pack, it's much easier to stop these trains than initially with, like, the regular game. Because stopping these trains are a little bit of a bitch. Like, they stop pretty well in real life, which is why I never understood why they were such a bitch to do it in the game. And of course, you know, Fan Railer corrected that with his mod pack, so shout out to him for making a decent mod pack that actually simulates real life. Not many people are doing what he's doing, so big shouts to him. We're coming into Old Greenwich Station. And I think we can only fit about 6 cars on the platform. Did I see a giant cheeseburger in that last poster? Yes, I did. See, they're trying so hard right now to make me, like, eat the screen. Because this looks yummy. This looks really, really yummy. I really want that. Oh my goodness. I have a little bit of an eating problem. I kind of have binge eating disorder. I know it's not something to proudly say in a video, but at the same time, stuff like this just makes me really hungry. And I just want to, like, stuff my pie hole uncontrollably. God, that sounded completely wrong. I'm just gonna be quiet for the rest of the ride. I do like these trains. They're like all my favorite colors. Blood red and black. God, I can't wait to get a better processor. I think we're gonna level this out at about 50 miles an hour. Okay, we're coming up to Riverside. So, you might hear the Close Encounters theme in the background. If you do, that's somebody just texting me on my phone. I know, bad train driver, don't text. But, you know, I'm keeping track about what my plans are for tomorrow, because I have to, take care of certain things tomorrow. Like, looking for a job. You know, that's kind of important. I kind of need to get paid and pay bills. Okay, so we're coming into Riverside Station. Again, I think only a few cars are gonna fit on this platform. I think it's only with 6 cars on this platform. Nope, there goes my phone. Riverside Station. Okay, doors open. Okay, next stop, Cos Cob. Now, gotta wait for this to kick in. One of the interesting things I like about these two stations over here, there's like a little section of bridge. You don't see it here at the gate because the gate's stupid, but in real life, there's a section where like the wire rises high enough to where the pantograph can't like touch it anymore. And then it goes over like a movable section of the bridge which has no wires at all. And then on the other side, the wire just gently lowers back down and catches up with the pantograph. And I think you like lose contact with like the electrical system for like a few seconds. On the old M2 cars, you could actually see the lights flicker. You can't really see it on these cars because the new ones don't do it, but alrighty, Cos Cob Station. Again, first 6 cars for Cos Cob. First 6 cars in station. I'm not a nice person. I will come into the station honking like a nut job. I think that's I-95 above us there. Alrighty. Next stop will be Greenwich, which I think that is the last station stop in Connecticut before we enter New York State. If it's one thing that the New Haven line is known for, is its really weird speed limits. Because you're going to see some weird speed limits come up in a little bit. Drinking a nice cup of coffee at like 11:26 at night. I don't know what is wrong with me, but sometimes you just need coffee at night. Weirdly, here you can see I-95 on the left that parallels this line. I-95 makes a predominant presence along the line here because it follows a lot of old right-of-ways of other interurban railways that used to run in the area parallel to the New Haven. So you see I-95 pop up here a lot. Here it's just being an asshole and just like sharing the right of way with the Northeast Corridor. I saw an old right of way of another railroad, but further down it takes the right of way of the New York, Westchester, and Boston. And it follows that through a majority of like the New York State portion of this line, because that line was paralleled by the interurban making like hyper-local stops, while the New Haven made their regular local stops as well as have express trains that ran express to Stamford and then local to New Haven. We're strictly a local train because we started in Stamford, so we're technically like the inner local that runs in the inner suburbs of New York City. And we're coming into Greenwich, Connecticut station. Fairly nice looking station, might I add. We're gonna move up just a tad, just because the last car is hanging off the platform a bit, so I want that to be on the platform. This is the first station we are at that can fit all 8 cars perfectly. And here we are, Greenwich, Connecticut. See, now we got all the cars on the platform. That's what I wanted, just like all the cars to like berth. Alrighty, next stop is Portchester, New York. You know, I don't know what the finale is, but I want to see it. Sounds like a good show. Gotta catch it off TS Trade Sim TV, you know. Alright, I'll stop being cynical for a minute here. Alrighty, so we just left Greenwich, Connecticut station. And, we crossed the New York, Connecticut border shortly after, which is, I think, this bridge over here. I don't know, I'm not sure. And, whatchamacallit, I know further down the line, we have to slow down for a 45-mile-an-hour curve. So that's fun. It's like the one curve in the entire line that I just look at it sideways and just go, why do we have this? Why do we need this? Alrighty. Seems to be a fairly decent little run between these two stops. Not much in the way of scenery. You could just see really the back of houses faintly through the trees if you really look closely. In the summertime when the trees are thick and stuff like that, you can't see the houses at all. There's an interesting little, like, stretch, too. So now we're coming up to the curve that requires a slowdown to 45 miles an hour from the 70. You just have to remember that this is a high-speed rail corridor. So seeing speeds of 45 is a little, like, bothersome, especially knowing that you have trains that are capable of, like, 200 miles an hour running on this, like, line. And even in regular operation, they don't come anywhere close to, like, you know, those speeds. I think the highest the Acela Express goes is 150 miles an hour. And that's in, like, two little sections. One section in Rhode Island and another section in Massachusetts. It'd be nice if the Acela Express could go faster in certain areas, but it can't. It just can't. Because of track and other weird regulations and whatnot, it's just a mess. It's just one big hot mess. Alrighty, and we're entering Fort Chester, New York Station. The first stop in New York State. A lot of people don't know this, but the reason why the Metro North picked red for the New Haven line is because of the New Haven being red in color back in the days with their McGinnis paint scheme. And, you know, of course the rail buffs know that, but regular people don't know that. And they always wonder why it's not, like, blue like the rest of the Metro North system. Even though during rush hour they do get, like, you know, blue coaches from the diesel push-pull express trains. Most of which run express trains to Danbury and New Haven. Oh, we're coming into Port Chester. I'm gonna pull up a little bit for the station. Now, I never understood why I was such a big fan of, you know, this line. Especially because of the fact that they use these colors, but I just love these colors. I already am a girl who wears a lot of black, so when you filter in red as being, like, the unofficial second color of gothism, per se, it actually kind of goes well together. And I kind of like that it's a darker red, because that's kind of what I like. And in a weird way, it's also kind of the same colors I picked for my fictional commuter rail system on trains. It was ZZ. That one's called Bridge Vista Commuter. Which is very, very, very based off of Metro North, so there's no surprise in similarities there. Like Metro North and New Jersey Transit were the straight driving points behind that railway. But I take pride in that little railway because, you know, I put a lot of work into it. It's a statewide railway system. It's growing a lot. It has grown a lot since, you know, I first started playing around with it in like 2008. So, you know, I take pride in it. I wish that I could, you know, accomplish that on here, on Train Simulator, because I feel like this would be a better platform for it, and you don't have to use many substitute trains, because Bridge Rissa using a lot of Metro North and New Jersey Transit equipment, which is already readily available here for Train Simulator. It makes it a little bit easier to make, you know, certain models and trains that run on the system, especially Silverliner 4s, because you can easily make those out of Arrow 3s. And those are my all-time favorite train. Like, I love the Silverliner 4s and the Arrow 3s. Like, those are my all-time favorite trains. I grew up with them. You know, those are those trains that, to me, they make the right noises, they make the right movements, they look good. You know, they got that 70s streamlined look to it. So, you know, that's my thing. And, you know, I have that running in my rail system for Bridge Rissa. Though, unlike, you know, SEPTA's version, Bridge Rissa's was real, you know, it would be a rebuilt version with a center door. Something that SEPTA never did with their Silverliner 4s, believe it or not. Their Silverliner 4s still have a plug where you're supposed to put a center door, but we never had center doors on our Silverliner 4s. And the reason why we never had those doors is because we never really needed them. We just started getting high-level platforms recently, especially on most lines. And that was because it took like a government regulation to like get those installed at most stations. Because even up until 2013, they were rebuilding stations with low platforms and those little mini high-level platforms to get around ADA law, which I thought was like the silliest but cutest thing ever, because I was like, aw, look at SEPTA trying. But now they have to build full-blown high-level platform stations as per law. And the Silverliner 4s are overdue for replacement. The only reason why we haven't replaced them yet is because they're very, very reliable trains. You know, for something that is from the 70s and has never gotten mechanically rebuilt, they are very reliable trains. This is Rye Station. Now I want bread. Alrighty. We are leaving Rye Station. I forgot the name of the next stop. I should be fired. I think Larchmont is the next stop. I'm probably dead wrong. Harrison, that's the next stop. See, now this is where I-95 becomes a little intrusive bastard. You can see on the right there, it's running in the right-of-way of what used to be the New York, Westchester, and Boston Railway, because the right-of-ways are like almost the same grade level. They were built at similar times, and they were both owned by New Haven at one point, so they have similar grading. Goes to show you how I-95 was built in most areas. I-95 was hell-bent on killing the Northeast Corridor, and it just never happened. The whole interstate system was designed to kill railroads. It happened in many areas, but not here in the Northeast. Can't really go too fast because you gotta stop at Harrison. And then you get the one section at 80 mile an hour running after Harrison. And you can't really run it to its full potential because you gotta stop at Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Jesus freaking Christ. Come on. It makes the route much longer than what it actually is. I'm not even answering my phone when it goes off. I just wait until like we're stopped at a station. Especially with these trains, you know, you could stop these trains a lot easier than most. That's why I prefer MUs. I think I said this in another video. Harrison Station. This is Harrison. Alright, Harrison. Alrighty. During rush hours, some trains end at this station. I know some trains end here, and a few also end at New Rochelle. Those are like the hyper-local trains. I know that during rush hours, some trains can be as long as 11, 12 cars, which is not unheard of. Which is very unusual because normally they try to stick it to 10. Just so that they can fit on the platforms easier. Most stations can't even fit any more than, you know, an 8-car train. We have an 8-car train and we can't even fit on some of the platforms that we're stopping at. So imagine 10 or 12 cars, or even 11. Because on the New Haven line, they actually have single unit M8s that they'll stick in between, like, you know, a certain train set to make it longer than what it actually is. Yeah, I think I'm not even paying attention to the speed limit. There we go. The one section of quote-unquote high-speed running on the system. Now you see the station house for this train station is a little pushed back because the Interurban Railway used to stop it where that parking lot is right now. So now that the Interurban is long gone, they turned that into a parking lot. New York, Westchester, and Boston Interurban Railway became the 5 train in the Bronx, the Dyer Avenue line. Which is why the Dyer Avenue line is so weird compared to, like, the rest of, like, the subways in the Bronx. Alrighty, Mamaroneck Station. I think next stop is Larchmont. I guess you can go kind of fast between these 2 train stations. It's a straightaway, they're kind of a little bit of a distance apart. I'm not going 80 though. Yeah, this is about good enough. There goes I-95 again, coming in the spot of the old interurban railway. You know, just saying, Dotel games, you could, definitely do the Westchester or, Train Simulator. You'll get some downloads. Slowly coming into a stop. There we go. Better safe than sorry, I say. And we are off. Sorry if I'm not as talkative tonight. Just kind of tired, but not too tired. Just kind of like, kind of want to just go brush my teeth and fall asleep in a little bit. But, you know, I also wanted to play some Train Simulator, get that out of my system for a bit. Next station stop is going to be New Rochelle. Oh my goodness, every time I hear that name, I just think about Everybody Hates Chris. And that's the toll booth right there for the Connecticut Turnpike. They call that part right there the Southern New York State Thruway, or New England Thruway, which I think is a little stupid. They're just trying to capitalize off the New York Thruway branding. Some rush hour trains do end at New Rochelle, but it's like very few of them, like maybe 2 or 3 trains. I have fan New Rochelle before, back when the M2s used to be very prominent in running, and it was always a fun place to rail fan, but you know, I also used to go for like the B-line buses, back when they also used to run Orion 5, which those are like my favorite buses. B-line is slowly phasing them out, and they're putting in new buses and whatnot, but it would be nice to see more Orion 5s in the future. Like, you know, being in preserve fleets and whatnot, because I have a lot of friends that end up buying buses and preserving them. Talk about, you know, having good friends. They're trying to save bus history. So now we're coming into New Rochelle Station. One of the smaller cities within the city, within the New York area. Though, I think White Plains is bigger, or I don't know if Yonkers or White Plains is bigger, but one of those little cities are bigger. This is all Westchester County, New York. Alrighty, New Rochelle Station. Connect here to the B-line bus. And we are here. Slow down. Get ducky. Alright, next stop is Pelham. And right after Pelham Station, we switch to 3rd Rail. The good thing is that after Mount Vernon East, which is the stop after Pelham, we make no stops except for Fordham and 125th Street. Which, those are like 2 little minor stops on the way back to Grand Central. On the left, you saw that line branching off. That's the Hellgate line that Amtrak uses to access Penn Station. Down the line, they want to send some Metro North trains down that way, as well as open up a few stations. Uh-oh. There we go. Gotta be a little careful. Crossing under I-95 again. So I think this is the last time we cross under I-95. Because we stay on this side of I-95 from this point on. Though I-95 kind of parallels the Hellgate line for a sec or two in the Bronx, but not over here. And we're 16 miles from Grand Central Terminal. I fairly enjoy this section of track over here. Alrighty, Pelham Station. Just want to get all those cars on the platform. Just get them all on the platform. There we go. Okay, so we're a little outside of Pelham Station, kind of right where the third rail starts. Just so you guys can see the power changeover in action. I mean, you could see it from the platforms themselves, but it's just better to, like, do it here. And there goes our train over here coming up now. Crossing over the Hutchinson Parkway. You can see the pantographs going down. It's actually really cool. Ugh, the frame rates just fuck everything up though. Alrighty. We're back in the cab. Are we in DC mode yet? Yes, we are. Quiet. So in real life, the overhead wires would have been stopped by now. Just saying. I don't know why they exaggerate it this much in this game. Mount Vernon East Station. In real life, the wires used to go all the way out to Woodlawn Junction, but I think that changed in 1975. I think it was 75 when they extended the third rail up to Mount Vernon East. And they did that on purpose because at the time New York Central wanted to run local trains up to Mount Vernon East. Well, Penn Central back then, it was Penn Central. And they were going to accomplish this by adding third rail, thus making it versatile for the old New York Central trains to use it. They only got to use that ability once during a farewell trip. Alrighty, next station stop will be Fordham Station. You know, very recently, they just made it, legal for passengers to use the, New Haven train going into Manhattan. It was part of like an age-old agreement back from like the New Haven, New York Central rail days, because the New Haven Railroad actually runs on the New York Central between Woodlawn Junction and Grand Central. So in order to abide by trackage rights, they had an agreement that the New Haven would only make one stop. And originally that stop was Fordham. Originally that stop was Woodlawn Junction, and they moved the stop to Fordham instead because Fordham had the college there, and also, also hosted college football, which a lot of people took the train to, so it made more sense to have the stop there. And for years, that's like where the only stop for New Haven line trains. But going northbound, you can only get on the train. Going southbound, you can only get off. They just changed the rules, and now you can do vice versa on either side. But back in the day, the electric wires used to go down this far. The reason why they moved it back was because they wanted to run the third rail trains this far, and they never did it. At least up until like a certain point. We just entered the Bronx. We were in Westchester County before, now we're in the Bronx County of New York City. A lot of people don't realize that, the boroughs are counties. They count as separate counties. But they're still the boroughs of New York. They still represent the city limits of New York. Technically, we're in the city limits. If you have the Hudson line, you could run quick drive trips out to Mount Vernon West train station, which is on the Harlem line. That's the line that the New York Central used to follow. And that's the line that we are coming up to right here that we connect to for the rest of the ride into Grand Central. What was also known as New York Central Hudson Valley Line. Not to be confused with the Hudson Line. Then they changed it to the Harlem Valley Line, and then just the Harlem Line. Which, that kind of makes more sense, because geographically, that's the Harlem River Valley. I mean, the Harlem Valley, not the, Hudson Valley. You know what I mean. Always interesting watching the trains coming off the right-of-way here. Oh, we're really zoomed in. In real life, you would have like 10 trains going by at once here. It always seems like this is like one of the busiest sections of railway in the entire New York City. And rightfully so, you have a lot of lines converging here. Alright, passing Woodlawn Junction Station. I once took a train there. It was actually kind of nice. But the hills to walk back up to like the 2 train, oh my goodness, those hills are a killer. That's all I remember was those hills. That highway on the right there is the Bronx River Parkway. I'm a little annoyed that there's no AI trains running in the other direction. I don't know if that's a setting I need to fix, but there should be at least a couple of New Haven line trains going the other direction. Now we're passing Williamsbridge, which back in the day hosted a New York City subway connection. There used to be a double-level bridge back in the 70s with 3rd Avenue subway L would run on top of it. That was canned in 73 because they blamed that elevated system for the reason why the Bronx was slipping in, like, you know, crime and stuff like that. Meanwhile, after removing it, things got worse for the Bronx in terms of crime and drugs and stuff like that. And I come to realize it wasn't even the 3rd Avenue L, it was the Cross Bronx Expressway that ruined the Bronx. When that was plowed through most of the city, New York just stopped giving a shit about the Bronx after that. And this is a sad but true story that, you know, the Bronx ended up becoming this, like, you know, place that no one wanted to go to. People would turn it into, like, the butt of their jokes, like, oh, the Bronx? Oh, that's the dump of New York. I think the Bronx is actually one of the more interesting boroughs of New York because you have so many hills. It's also the borough that's connected to the mainland. It has a lot of history. You also have Metro North running down the center of it, which gives it a good connection to, like, you know, the rest of upstate New York. Well, the rest of Westchester and Dutchess County, at least. Passing Botanical Garden Station. By the way, if you have never been to the Bronx Botanical Gardens, please go. I highly suggest it. It is beautiful. It was a place that me and my ex would go to a lot just to look at pretty flowers. And every winter time they usually have a show where they'll have a bunch of garden trains running around, you know, beautiful displays of flowers and stuff like that. And I've gone, you know, many years in a row to that. The best is to take the Metro North there because the Metro North takes you right to, like, the botanical gardens. But you can also take the B train to I think it's 183rd Street station. I'm not sure. And you could also take the 2 train. I think it's the 2 train. Two train to 174th Street. But that one's a little bit of a walk. That's more closer to the Bronx Zoo. Now that I think about it. For 274th Street station. I mean 174th Street, whatever. The station stop is Fordham. Connection to the BX12 SBS bus line that will connect you to the 2 and 5 train at Pelham Parkway and the D train at Fordham Avenue. Fordham Station. Next stop is Harlem 125th Street. So, I gotta admit, a lot of the Bronx has a lot of sentimental value to me because my dad used to work there. My ex used to live up there from time to time, like when she used to switch back and forth between Queens and there. I had a lot of friends up there who also lived up there, and I would often get off at Fordham Plaza and Tremont because those were the two stations closest to those people. So this area just holds a lot of sentimental value to me. Cool thing is that you get to go like 75 miles an hour through this section of the Bronx. Eight miles to go until we hit Grand Central. You could see the Cross Bronx Expressway crossing over here. That's that higher bridge up there. That's the last time we cross I-95 for good. Because I-95 then goes completely west of New York City and runs through the Palisades of Jersey and then down through Secaucus and other places like Edison and whatnot. No. Really not in the mood to describe what I-95 does in New Jersey, but yeah. Trust me when I say that's the last time we see it the entire ride. Excuse me. Ooh. Back in the 70s, they wanted to build a branch of the 2nd Avenue subway to run parallel to this right-of-way, and it would have been where the tall wall is on the left, running a similar pattern to this line, but stopping at, local streets along the way. They would have replaced Melrose and Tremont stations as well. That was supposed to be the replacement for the 3rd Avenue L. Never happened. Then again, a lot of the 1968 program for action plans never happened. And the parts that did happen ended up later becoming compromised. The good old Archer Avenue Tunnel. The biggest compromise I've ever seen. That and the 63rd Street. both of which were supposed to be connected by a Long Island Railroad super express train that would have connected into the subway. I don't know what happened, but it just never happened. And instead, they just linked it to the Queens Boulevard line on both ends. Though it took... So we're coming up to Mott Haven, which used to be a major yard for New York Central and New Haven trains. I don't know what exactly happened over the years, but it has grown to such a giant coach yard. And then after Penn Central came and went, it turned into like this little maintenance of way yard that Metro North uses here and there. But it's not as big as it used to be. Part of it has already been developed over, which is a shame. That track you see branching off to the right, that's part of the Y that takes New Haven trains and Harlem line trains into Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium station is like to the west of here, and during certain game days, trains will come down from New Haven and end at Yankee Stadium instead of Grand Central, just so people could go to the Yankee game. And it takes people off of the 4 train by doing that, because when they get off at Grand Central, naturally they have to transfer to the 4 train to get to Yankee Stadium. Hudson line is coming in on the right. I'm so glad the Hudson line's in the game. Once I get some money, I'm gonna definitely download that, because it would be nice to like operate some M7s on this line, especially on, you know, the Harlem line locals. Even though you can only go as far as Mount Vernon West, it's still something, you know, fun to do. And here goes the first track of the Hudson joining us. And then the second track coming in on the right. Now we pass 138th Street, which used to be a station back in the Penn Central days. That station long gone. It was right here where that curve is coming up. Thank goodness I'm getting tired now, because we're coming close to the end of the line. And this is where 138th Street Station used to exist. It used to be a side platform on this side, and there was like a center platform, and another center platform, and another side platform. Again, I think only Harlem line trains only stopped at that station because of the agreement that the New Haven had, where it can only stop at Woodlawn Junction and later on Fordham. And we cross over the Harlem River, which means we're leaving the Bronx and entering Manhattan. This is a lift bridge, by the way. in real life. It lifts up whenever whenever boats need to go by that are too tall to fit underneath of the bridge. Though bridge openings are kind of rare, considering that most of the boats are regulated to certain heights. Though most of the bridges along the Harlem River are movable. Now we're on the Park Avenue Viaduct. A lot of Harlem is in a valley, so in order to combat the valley, they build L's through it, and this is the notable example over here. On the west side, they also have an L for the one train. Once again, this keeps the train tracks leveled while the ground shifts radically below the train tracks. And this station stop is Harlem 125th Street. Transfer for the 4, 5, and 6 subway lines, as well as the M60 SBS to LaGuardia Airport, aka Super Mega Crappy Airport of New York City. Who also has sentimental values of a person I don't want to think about. And now, the final stretch. Grand Central Terminal. I said that with like no enthusiasm whatsoever. Okay, there we go. Now we continue down the Park Avenue Viaduct until the ground rises up over the train tracks and we enter the Park Avenue Tunnel. So who remembers the Metro channel? I kinda do. And one of the things I loved about the Metro channel is that every once in a while they would put cab rides on of certain rail lines. And more than once they did the Park Avenue Tunnel. That was the first time I've ever heard of Metro North. Okay. We're coming up to the tunnel entrance now. So, the height of Manhattan past the tunnel is actually the true height of it when you think about it, because most of Manhattan is that height. It's just only in this area where it like sharply drops for some reason. There's also another sharp drop on the other side of Manhattan, but that's because Manhattan thins out. And most of the subway lines in that area combat it by going into deep tunnels through there instead of elevated viaducts and stuff like that. And we have entered the tunnel. It's interesting to know that Park Avenue above here has some of like the most richest real estate that you have ever seen in the world. And that's because of its convenience to Grand Central Terminal and all of other New York's attractions. The closer you get to Midtown Manhattan, the more you're closer to the attractions, basically. I could never afford to live in Manhattan, though. I can tell you that right now. I am a very poor ducky. Could barely afford to live in Pennsylvania. But I still live here, and I'm still pretty happy with living here in Pennsylvania, I'll tell you that. Haven't had too many of those this whole trip, which is weird. Usually they go off like crazy. Now, I used to ride Metro North a lot back when I was younger and I used to work in the Bronx. So I remember when I used to take Metro North back into the city, which was very rare because normally I would take it out of the city. The trains would actually speed up in the tunnel coming into Grand Central right before they had to slow down for that 15. Which I always found, you know, weird. It's like, why do you speed up that little short section of track? And then I realized why they do that. Trains run back to back on that little section of viaduct between Mott Haven Junction and here. And it makes sense when you have 3 main lines running 4 different services each. New Haven is unique because you have the Harrison locals, the new Rochelle locals, the Stamford locals and semi-locals, and then of course the New Haven locals and New Haven expresses and New Haven super expresses, which those are ran by push-pull Genesis trains, basically. Same, like, you know, trains that SEPTA uses, but instead of a ACS 64 or AEM 7, they use Genesis locomotives. It'll be a miracle if I fucking make it to 15 in time. Yes, I know. So I think 15 is a fair limit for any train terminal. I think I mentioned this in my last video, that 15 is a fair speed because you can come into the station and still control what you're doing, per se. Alright, so here we leave the Park Avenue Tunnel to enter the Grand Central Terminal Cavern. And since we're going into track 34, we're not going to be doing much in the way of switching. I mean, we are going to switch a few times, but we're not going to be doing crazy switching as if we were going to, like, another track. Because 34 is relatively, like, close to the positioning of this main over here. Another thing to note, that Grand Central is a 2-level terminal. Most New Haven line trains actually operate from the lower level. But, for some reason, the lower level hasn't been fully built. Just the ramps have been. So you see the ramps for the lower level, but you really can't send the train down there. You could park a train there, but you can't send the train down there. Alright, we're out of the tunnel, and we are in terminal zone. So you can see the ramps on either side to go down to the lower level, but they're, like, useless once you get to the bottom of them. There's also a loop at Grand Central that trains sometimes use if they're running very late and they can't, like, you know, pull them in and walk to the other end. It's very rare, though, to, like, have that happen, but the loop is there. And there's also, you know, it's also there for, like, long-distance trains to turn around. That was its main intention. Back when Amtrak used to use this as a main terminal. Amtrak sometimes still uses this station, but only during emergencies. Like when their Hudson line is blocked or some shit like that, they'll send trains down this way. Yeah, we're entering Grand Central. And you can see how it fans out the terminal itself. It's actually very cool. I just wish I could make it to the damn terminal stand fast enough. They didn't want me going like a high 15 miles an hour. At least we're almost done, and that's the important part. Really? Such tedious work. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is Grand Central Terminal Station. Transfer here for the 4, 5, and 6 subway train, as well as the 7 train to Queens and the shuttle train to Times Square. Connection is also available here for the express bus to Newark International Airport and JFK Airport. I always wonder, like, how agonizing this could be to, like, certain people who have to, like, pee after that long-ass trip. Imagine, like, coming back to Grand Central after that long trip and you need to pee, and the train's coming in just as slow. No, it's actually not that slow. It could come in much slower than that. But still slow enough. And they have bathrooms on this train, but you don't want to go in the bathroom because you think that you going in the bathroom is somehow, some way going to make you even more later than if you're stopping in the middle of the terminal to find some place to pee. Talk about counterintuitivity. Alright, Grand Central. Alright, and thank you once again for riding with me. Sorry about the lack of camera overlay, but I just did not feel like being on camera tonight. But it was great running a train anyway with you guys. That sounded so wrong. Subscribe, like the video, comment, do whatever you can to make this video popular. Have a nice day, guys. Film, bitch! Is it filming? Shit.